could have got him as high as 70-1. That's what I had him at. And, boy, that was a great ticket to cash on Sunday evening at Darlington. And we are very excited about that one, Sam and I both. Sam won't be able to join us today. Actually, he had to stay late at work, so he won't be joining us today. So we're going to talk a little NASCAR in the first portion of the program here, segment 1, and then we'll get into our Watchdog Football Hour of Bettor's Last Stand, where we talk all things football, and that is simulcast on the Watchdog Network, WKKX, WVOI, and WatchdogNetwork.com. It'll be your place for all the high school football action, including our Football Friday broadcasts, which we'll go over here in a little bit when we head into that hour of the program. So we're up just under 77 units, so just over 75 units. It's 76.80. So a wonderful week for us. Most of that coming compliments of Chase Briscoe, but recapping the other sports in which we gave out plays. And again, the plays always at BLS_PRP. And you can also hear the football plays on the Watchdog at 5 o'clock on Fridays. We go through the entire hour of all football, from the round football to the not so pigskinish football to the pigskin football. All things covered during Bettor's Last Stand on the Watchdog hour of the program. All right, so we were 1-3 in the CFL, not good. We had a good week prior. The European football, English Premier League, so to speak, and we did well there, 4-1 in our EPL plays this week. We were 9-6 in college football. The best bet was a loser, and it is Virginia Tech. And oh, how much I hate Virginia Tech. It pained me to have to give them out as a play last week, but I really, really liked them. They sleepwalk through the first 3 quarters, take the lead late against Vanderbilt, end up giving up another touchdown late to Vandy to force it into overtime after they thought I guess they won the game. They kind of just quit. But it was a disgusting display by Virginia Tech. I wish them nothing but the worst. I hate that school, and I hope they lose every game, and I hate their fans, and I hope they have a miserable season. They deserve it, because they ruined my week number 1 with that terrible loss to Vanderbilt of all teams. So again, CFL 1-3, EPL 4-1, CFB college football 9-6. 2 of our golf picks from last week. Finally, that's over too. Enough was enough with that. I mean, a boring tournament. Scheffler runs away. He gets a 10-shot lead on most of the field, and it's really uneventful. Just garbage playoff format. He wins the FedEx Cup. But we had 2 golfers in the top 10 of our 5 picks that we gave out last week. Again, I said Briscoe, 70-1, cashes at Darlington. Sam and I both on that one. We talked about him on the show. Scott McLaughlin in IndyCar, 5-1 on the second day of the Milwaukee Mile. So we cashed that one as well. AFL Futures, just recapping, we were 6-2 on those throughout the season. We had no games, but by the time you listen to this, there'll have been 2 games played that we gave you out last week, those 2 overs in the first 2 finals games. Recapping a couple other things from NASCAR, we had 5 in the top 10, so a pretty strong day for NASCAR. Logano, Chastain, Busch, and, of course, the race winner, Briscoe. We actually had Kyle Busch as well, who finished second. So very strong in NASCAR. We were due for a good week there. And Sam also, along with the Briscoe pick, had Scott Dixon in the top 5 at the Milwaukee Mile race. I think it was day 2 that he finished there. So racing only down to 1 race. We got playoffs for NASCAR starting up this week. F1 and the IndyCar guys are off. We'll talk about those momentarily. But first, let's go over a few things in the world of baseball. Some of the plays that we gave out. You might as well burn the tickets now. I'd say that the Red Sox are absolutely finished right now. I think so many bullpen just debacles, they just can't overcome it anymore. And they're playing really bad baseball right now, and they are done. They're like the Pirates now of the American League. Completely fell apart, and it's sad to see. But that's the way it goes, and you pick it up and move along. So a loser there. So that one is definitely going to be a loser for the Red Sox to make the playoffs. I think the Mariners are probably done as well. They're clinging to life, but, man, they blow a lot of games too. Games they should win. They just can't get any firepower in that offense at all. I thought Arozarena was going to make a difference, but he has not. The Mariners 5.5 out. Red Sox remain 4.5 out. But just the way that they're playing right now, it's just really bad. I will say this: the Royals are in a free fall right now. They have lost 7 in a row as of this broadcast, and they're leaking oil pretty badly right now. So do they keep falling? Do the Tigers have a chance now? I wouldn't think so. The Rays only 6 games out, and believe it or not, the Blue Jays and Rangers are really only 8 games out right now. So I think it may just stay as is. Twins just narrowly back their way in, and the Royals hang on for dear life and probably still make it in. In the National League, it's the Braves have a half-game lead on the Mets. The Mets making the most of playing the Red Sox. I still can't get over the Mets. I just don't think they're very good at all. But they continue to find ways to win games, and they got it cut down to a half game. Cubs, 2 terrible performances by them back-to-back nights. I thought that the Cubs had broke the Pirates' spirits for good when they visited PNC a week ago. Well, the Pirates are returning the favor as they basically are eliminating the Cubs now from playoff contention. Cardinals now 5.5 out. Giants at 7.5. They are toast. That's another one of our tickets we can burn. So I would burn the Mariners, Red Sox, and Giants right now. It's just going to take a miracle for those teams to be able to get it together enough to be able to catch anybody. Pirates are 10 out, of course. They are toast. They've been toast for a while. Skeens gets the W the other night, which is about all they have going for them, and they'll screw that up. Diamondbacks, Padres continue to be pretty strong right now, and the Dodgers are probably going to hold on to that division, but you got 2 very good teams there in the NL West that are knocking on the door. So it's unfortunate that we're not going to get home any of those playoff picks, although we will have the Padres. They're going to be a playoff team. We gave that one out at plus money a while ago. Gave out the Padres to advance to the World Series. So we have some live tickets, and we'll continue to monitor those as we push into the playoffs. Once we get a little bit closer, I'll start doing a couple more World Series exact as the teams that I think there's value on. Try to get them both into the World Series, and not necessarily one or the other having to win. Just getting it there would be a good enough payout for me and for you as listeners. You should probably try to start doing that. You can do that in pretty much every sport. So something to keep an eye on. Don't necessarily have to do it exact. An ice cold exacta, but you can do like a Quinella box or an exacta box where you can get both outcomes. So that's always a good thing to keep an eye on. Golf, as I said, Scheffler finished it up last week, the FedEx Cup. We got a few weeks off. There is a live event. I think it's this week. This week or next week in Chicago, I think. But if I have any plays on that, we'll put them up at BLS_PRP. The President's Cup is in a couple of weeks, so we'll have that golf event, the United States versus the world. See what can go on there. See if we can find any value in betting that. I'm sure we can find a little bit out there. When the team dynamic in there, it opens up some things that maybe weren't on the radar during the normal part of the golf season. Tennis-wise, U.S. Open quarterfinals and semifinals going on right now, actually, and Jack Draper looking like he may take out Alex de Minaur right now as a dog. So I'm happy about that one, but I need this to go over. So I need Draper or de Minaur to win the third set. He's down 2-0, lost the first 2 sets, just lost the second one 7-5. So hopefully he can get it to a fourth and get this over the 39 that I needed. And we got a little money line play on Draper as well. Daniil Medvedev and Jannik Sinner tonight in the match that basically, by the time you listen to this, you'll know who the heavy favorite is to win this tournament. So whoever wins that will be the favorite by leaps and bounds. We have the future ticket on Medvedev to win his quarter, to make it to the finals, and to win it. And I really like that. I think he's well rested and he's ready to go. And I think he'll give Sinner everything he can handle tonight. Medvedev has been incredibly impressive in his matches so far, and you can see the freshness of not having played in the Olympics. It's carrying over for him, and let's hope that we can make the best of that. Also, Irina Sabalenka last night, she cruises again. Not playing in the Olympics, very beneficial to her. Karolina Markova, another future bet that we have on, looking great. She won today. So by the time you listen to this, she'll probably be playing, let's see, so probably Friday. So Markova, look for her. These 2 girls are playing great tennis. Sabalenka and Markova got some good futures live on them, as well as Medvedev. We lost Andreeva, lost Djokovic. Djokovic just worn down. Andreeva probably the same, one because he's older, the other one because she's very young and inexperienced. So, but every time she gets to one of these majors, she's going to learn something. And I'm telling you, keep your eye on her. because once she continues to develop physically, she is going to be an exceptional talent on the women's WTA tour. Other than that, let's see. Actually, we do have something else to talk about in the first segment. With no Sam today, we are going to go into our racing part of the program. And last week, if you missed it, we had the winner at the IndyCar with Scott McLaughlin. Pato O'Ward won the first day, and the season finale for IndyCar is going to be next week. That'll be the 15th at Nashville, season-ending race for them. Looks like Newgarden and Power are the guys that could potentially win the championship there going into the final race for IndyCar. Didn't get to see a ton of the Milwaukee Mile on Saturday. I got to see a decent amount of it on Sunday, and really liked that track. So was good to see McLaughlin get into victory lane and cash a ticket for us. Then the F1 boys on Sunday morning, it was Charles Leclerc winning the Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari. Obviously a big moment for them. Obviously Italian-based operation, and Ferrari gets the job done. Great car by Leclerc. He outduels the two McLarens, and the McLarens finish 2-3. Not a good performance by Red Bull. Not a good performance by Mercedes. Sam nailed that with the McLaren win, and he was spot on with that prediction. The McLaren would be on the podium. He double swept the podium there, and he had Alex Albon in the top 10. But a great performance by Ferrari. But we talked about Ferrari having a lot of momentum in the last couple of weeks here on the show. I was asking him if he thought that there was some value there with Ferrari now that the other teams are all looking like they're the top three, and here comes Ferrari in to swoop in and with a good strategy and a very good car. And Charles Leclerc gets the job done at Monza. Next up for the F1 boys will be Azerbaijan in 2 weeks, so they'll be over at Baku. And we'll have a full preview of that one on next week's show, as well as the IndyCars at Nashville. Back over to NASCAR, where we concentrate mostly. And it was an exciting race. Southern 500 didn't disappoint. Chase Briscoe gets the job done for us. Gets us into victory lane at 70-1. We'll take that any day we can. Kyle Busch was second, of course. Chris Bell, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain. We had Ross Chastain, Buescher, Logano. So we had a lot of guys up there, as well as Busch and Briscoe. So it was a strong performance, and we'll be happy to punch 70-1 tickets any way we can. That qualified Chase Briscoe for the playoffs, which begin this week. And it's a good track to start it off on, a super speedway at Atlanta. Now, Atlanta doesn't have the feel of the super speedway as far as Daytona and Talladega do with the high banking. Atlanta has a tri-oval that's a little bit flatter, kind of similar to a Charlotte. Now, it is a big track, and it is very fast, top speed, but the banking takes a little bit of a different approach as far as the drafting goes. It's still super speedway racing, and they'll still be in their little packs and things, but not at the level of a Talladega or Daytona. Nonetheless, you can find some good prices here. The race favorite, Ryan Blaney, just around 11-1, so that's a good sign there. We don't have somebody at 4 and 5-1 like we normally do. So I thought that was intriguing. Ryan Blaney, extremely good here in Atlanta. He was good in Atlanta before they turned this into the super speedway and repaved it and everything. He had a good track record there to begin with, and he continues to be one of the top guys at Atlanta. William Byron, who won a race here last year, I believe he won the summer race here. This is the first time I think Atlanta has had a playoff race since they reconfigured the playoff format. William Byron won this last July, edging out Daniel Suarez, who actually won the race here in February, and he edged out Ryan Blaney. So some of the guys that you're going to see horse for courses, so to speak, Byron, Logano, Blaney, all really, really strong here. Daniel Suarez, who won a race and finished second back-to-back times here, he's 17-1, maybe worth a peek. Price is a little low for me for him right now. Chances are you don't get lucky 3 straight times at a track like Atlanta. I found Austin Cindric very interesting. He's ran really well here in the past, and he has a really good restrictor plate super speedway pedigree, and he led 32 laps here earlier in the season, and he ran well in the race last summer. So I thought Austin Cindric made a lot of sense at a fair price, around 20-1. So we're going to take a peek at him. And then I thought Martin Truex, I know he's not known as a super speedway racer, but around 22, 23 to 1, he has had good results here at Atlanta. And I think he could be a guy that could sneak under the radar, maybe not to win the race, but in top 10s just to hang around there. I think his driver ratings were very good at Atlanta, and he had a little bit of bad luck in both races, the last two out. So I'm going to take a peek at Truex. And then the RFK guys, Roush, Fenway, Keselowski Racing, Brad Keselowski at around 12 or 13 to 1, and Chris Buescher at 16 or 17 to 1. They are teammates, Keselowski part owner. Both of those cars should be exceptionally strong this week at Atlanta. You had a situation where Buescher was ninth the last go-round. Keselowski had some issues. He crashed back in the winter race here, but ran very strong in the summer race last year, finished sixth there, and Buescher has been a top 15 car at Atlanta pretty much regularly throughout his entire career. So some dangerous guys here. I think Michael McDowell, obviously a guy that gets a little bit of look at the speedway races. Kyle Busch, don't discredit him. He's had back-to-back top fives here. And you know what? He didn't make the playoffs, and he's probably going to be looking to play spoiler a little bit. So look for him to be very aggressive, not having to worry about points and that kind of stuff or advancing. He's just going to be going to try to rack up as many wins as he can in the next 10 races. So top place, Cindric, then the RFK boys, Keselowski and Buescher, a little bit of an underdog play in Martin Truex Jr. Ty Gibbs, always strong. Justin Haley, a guy who I like to put in the super speedway races. He is 66 to 1. Ty Gibbs, 30 to 1. Ricky Stenhouse, 52 to 1. So you got some prices here. You can find some decent value on a race that should be very, very exciting. We didn't even mention Tyler Reddick. He's 20 to 1, and Denny Hamlin, who's one of the best racers there is on these big speedways. Denny around 14. So lots to choose from there. I like to go under the radar in these types of races because a lot of different guys can win. It's not necessarily the strong teams, the big teams win and dominate at these super speedway races. So we'll see how things turn out at Atlanta on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Should be a very good race to kick off the NASCAR playoffs here in the 2024 season. We are going to take a break here on Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99. We're going to come back, and it's going to be time for the Pine Room Watchdog Hour of Bettor's Last Stand. We're going to be on the radio here, WKKX, WVOY, and WatchdogNetwork.com for the next hour, talking all things football as we bring you into a fully loaded card of high school, college, and pro football over the weekend. It is Bettor's Last Stand, show 99 from the Pine Room Watchdog Studio in Wheeling. We will be right back with a full hour of football talk. Don't go anywhere.
Reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activities should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. All right, men, load the cannons and hold the line. You're listening to Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99, coming to you from the Watchdog Pine Room Studios in downtown Wheeling, taking you up to the pregame show for a couple of games you can hear, actually 3 games, a trifecta of games you can hear on the Watchdog Network.com and the various Watchdog radio stations, the WKKX, WVOY, of course, on WVOY at 7 o'clock. It'll be Wheeling Park hosting Spring Mills. That will be Coach on the call for that one, along with Luke Doyle and Nick Tesaurus. And then on WKKX, the Watchdog, it'll be Soup with the call of Wheeling Central and Fort Fry. 7 o'clock kickoff there. I believe Luke Cooper will be joining him, and Spencer Rogers, I think, is going to be on the sidelines for that one coming up here in just about 2 hours here on the Watchdog Network. And then over on WatchdogNetwork.com, it'll be George Washington at John Marshall Ross, Coach Heinerman, and Coach Treveri on the call for that one. As always, you get used to hearing them every week for Monarch football. So thank you to everybody at the Watchdog and our various sponsors of these wonderful games that we have going on here, bringing we're gonna bring you live action all season long. You're gonna have 10 games from each team, basically, and some playoff games, hopefully, if all works out. We had the health plan game of the week last week, and it was Wheeling Park taking out Parkersburg South 35-14. We did not have Wheeling Central action last week as Soup was getting married, so congrats to Soup and Sammy on that one. Wish them all the best, and everything seemed to turned out very, very nice down there in South Carolina, and just prayers to everybody for a wonderful and happy life together. So best of luck to them and congratulations. But back to business now. Soup on the call for tonight's game. Wheeling Central hosting Fort Fry. That game presented by IBEW. So we're excited about having IBEW on board with us. Again, the health plan sponsors the Wheeling Park game tonight. The Belmont Carson Petroleum broadcast booths where you'll hear the call from Coach Luke and Nick. And then the Flooring Center broadcast booth. So we're excited about that one for the Wheeling Central call, as it's a Flooring Center broadcast booth, which will be occupied by our man Soup Campbell, along with Luke Cooper and Spencer Rogers. And then John Marshall over on WatchdogNetwork.com will be bringing you the pregame for those here in just about, 45, 50 minutes here, right around 6 o'clock Eastern time, before we send it out to the fellas at 6:45 for the calls of the games. Again, Wheeling Park, Wheeling Central, and John Marshall. This is your home for them on the WatchdogNetwork.com and the Watchdog family of networks around your radio dial. So great to be back with you here. Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99. We bring you up to the pregame show at 6 o'clock. Duggar's Saucy Spread Challenge. It is in full swing. We're in week 2 right now. Jeff Doyle comes out of the gate with a red-hot 10-0. So, boy, he might be tough to track down after setting that. Coach Heinerman, the heavy favorite, he's 8-2 among a few other people right on the tail of Jeff Doyle. So it's going to be a really interesting next few weeks here. So, again, thanks to Duggar's Famous Chicken and Wings for sponsoring our Duggar's Saucy Spread Challenge. You can hear us talk plenty about that on the Football Friday show presented by Gumby's and Jill's Gentlemen's Club. You heard that here earlier this afternoon from 2 to 5 right here on the Watchdog. We're at the Gumby's in Elm Grove today, and it's exciting stuff. We enjoy doing those shows. We were unfortunately not able to be on site last week, so we got to make up for things, and we had a really good show for you this afternoon. Bear and Bob got it kicked off, though, in the Football Fridays, noon to 2 right here on the Watchdog. They were great, as always, talking all things football and getting you ready for the Watchdog Football Friday show, and then the Bettor's Last Stand portion of the daily football programming, and then we take you into pregame, and then the game broadcasts, and then some halftime as well, and a postgame at both sites, actually all 3 sites, where they're all 3 opening their seasons at home: John Marshall, Wheeling Park, and Wheeling Central. All right, got that stuff out of the way here as we roll on with you. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99 on the Watchdog Network here on a Friday afternoon on your Football Friday, presented by Gumby's and Jill's Gentlemen's Club. Let's get down to business here. We were up 76 units last week, 76.8 to be exact. Most of that in the NASCAR area. So if you missed that, we talked a little NASCAR in the first portion of the show. You can follow that at Watchdog, on the Watchdog, I got that all messed up. You can follow that at the Pine Room Studios page on YouTube. This is a lot to keep track of doing this double time here. So head over to YouTube, look for the Pine Room Studios. You can find the entire portion of Bettor's Last Stand, all 3 segments. Today we're only doing 2, though, because Sam the Man unfortunately can't join us in the 3rd segment. He usually will, to talk racing. So we talked racing in the first segment, gave you some picks for this week's race at Atlanta, so go check those out. We had a 70-1 winner last week in Chase Briscoe, so you might want to jump on these while we're hot, because I promise you we won't be hot forever, but we're darn sure going to try. Anyway, back to it here. This is the football portion of the show, Bettor's Last Stand. And again, we were up 76.8 units last week. CFL 1 and 3, EPL, Premier League Soccer, who is off for the next week and a half for the international break, so no plays for soccer this week. And then 9 and 6 in college football. Our best bet, Virginia Tech. They lost. Boy, what a disgusting, disgraceful performance by Virginia Tech, and I hope they lose every single game. Nonetheless, We are going to try to pick you some winners this week. We're going to start with some things, news and notes, some bad beats, that kind of stuff to get you ready. And then we're going to take you through the entire college football card, at least of the games that I think are worth looking at. And maybe there's some games that have some interesting line moves along the lines of totals or spreads. So we'll keep you apprised of those changes. But first, we're going to start with bad beats. And then again, we'll get into CFL, Aussie Rules, NFL, and college football for your weekend. Bad beats, well, here they go. Football already, not nearly as bad as baseball. Soccer can be brutal. Tennis can be brutal. Pretty much any sport can be brutal. Basketball can be terrible. Here we go. Duke, -24. You probably heard about these all week. People just had to be sick about these. These were the two worst, in my opinion. There was several other ones. Some of them I wouldn't even call bad beats. Some of them were games that the game should have went over the total like a long time ago, but you've been dodging bullets the whole time, and then it ends up going over at the very last second, which it really should have been over all along. But I narrowed it down to these two as being the two worst of the week. Duke, -24 against Elon. Duke leads 26-0 with 15 seconds left. Guess what Elon does? Oh, we're going to kick a field goal. Here we go. Trots out the kicker. Boom. 26-3 is the final. They cover by a point. Just a miserable loss if you had Duke there, but Duke let them hang around, so it's kind of their fault. Anyway, then you got Tennessee Tech, Middle Tennessee, under 52.5. It's 24-11. Oh, man, 35 point. You figure, I'm in great shape. 4 minutes to go in the game. Oh, no, not so fast. 22 points in the last 4 minutes, 32-25, Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee had to score with just a few seconds left to win that game. So if you could have had a defensive stand there from Tennessee Tech, but I know that's a lot to ask. But gut-wrencher there as the teams trade 3 scores in the last 4 minutes of the game to really stick it right in your ear hole. Just a horrible, horrible loss. NFL, while the pregame point spreads continue to be the most bet on markets for the NFL, they're getting caught pretty fast now. It's down to 50% market share, just a touch over 50. So those are your money lines, your totals, and your point spreads, your pre-flop, pre-game, however you want to look at it, post-time lines, things where the full game kick off before it kicks off. Not in-game wagering, not halftime, not quarters, not any of the other markets. But they're being caught 49%, just a tad over 49%, are made up of team props, player props, game props, and other alternate spread markets. So those are all your touchdown scores, all your different types of game props, your team scoring props, all the different types of scoring that you can do, where every team score a touchdown, where every team kick a field goal. Then you got your alternate spreads. If you like a team a lot, you play them 3 points more than what they're given, or 3 points less if you're really confident in an underdog. So there's all different kinds of things there. Now you're almost got it as a 50-50 split, which is kind of surprising because you never really thought that anything would ever catch up to the pre-flop spread, total, and money line. But that is the case. We live in a society. People want instant gratification. They're looking for these quick score parlays, these in-game, same-game parlays, and people want that stuff. It's incredibly difficult to hit. When you do hit them, they can pay out pretty decent, but I don't recommend that much of those on this show. We're not going to talk about a lot of those. If you have any questions, please feel free. Check in with us on the Watchdog on the Football Friday show. Call us 2 to 5 every single Friday. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, or if there is something that you want us to take a look at, I'll be happy to dive into that for you. But I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that 3 different guys on Sunday are going to score touchdowns. I might have a hunch about one. That's hard enough. It's hard enough for me to figure out which team's going to score, let alone which player. And I'm not trying to talk anybody off of that stuff, but it's just not an area where I feel like you have an advantage. The prices are underinflated, meaning that you're not getting true value on these guys that actually score, and the tickets are just diminished. You put these things on your same game parlay, the odds barely increase at all. So be very leery about those, and find your best area to do them in. Find some areas where you can actually gain a little bit of positive ROI if you're able to hit a few of these. 26.9% of the kickoffs in the preseason resulted in touchbacks. That's down from the 63.6 during the last 5 regular seasons. So maybe this new kickoff rule is making a difference. We'll see. We'll monitor it and make sure to let you know of anything that may impact the betting side of things. I'm not sure it will, but we'll keep an eye out for it. Lopsided ticket count, NFL Week 1. Here we go. 78% on the Texans minus 2.5. 77% of all the bets are on the Dolphins minus 3. 70% on the Vikings minus 1.5. 67% on the Bengals minus the 9. And 66% on the Lions minus the 3.5. Couple college notes here. Florida State is the only team since 2010 to lose outright as a double-digit favorite in their first 2 games since 2015. Wyoming did it, and in 2018 Baylor did it. So Florida State is they're done. Their season lasted about as long as Henry VIII's marriage to Anne of Cleves. Was pretty short-lived. So happy trails, Florida State. It's going to be a long, miserable rest of the year. Colorado, Nebraska drawing interesting action on both sides. Got Colorado, who is the public darling for Deion Sanders. I still don't understand why. They nearly blew it last week, but they're at Nebraska this week, renewing an old Big 8 rivalry. Nebraska, a favorite there of over a touchdown now. We'll talk about that when we go through the card. Sharps are on Nebraska. The public is on Colorado. So you pick your side there. I would highly recommend Nebraska if you're going to bet this game. But you got to watch the number. Major steam on Texas. They opened -5. I actually saw them open 3.5 at some places. 5 it got to very quickly on Sunday night, and then it's all the way up to 7.5. You may see some 8s here before too long. Nobody giving Michigan much of a chance in this game, and you know what happens when nobody gives them a chance. Somebody pulls off an upset, and maybe it happens this week. I don't know. I know Michigan's got a lot of issues right now. They certainly do. Texas, pretty talented program, but I wouldn't count that one in quite yet. Interesting wager that was a winner last week. $1,000 wager at Caesars. 6-leg parlay brought back $161,000. Oklahoma State minus the points. Northwestern minus the points. Miami of Florida minus the points. Nevada money line. North Texas money line. UNLV money line. $1,000. $161,000 return there for that lucky bettor at Caesars Sports. Cam Ward is the new favorite to win the Heisman Trophy at a lot of places. He's now down to 8-1 after a good performance against Florida. But as a Miami fan, please tread lightly there. Miami could give this up very quickly. They played very well. The line play was very, very good. Something to build off of, but let's not get excited. Florida is very bad. One of the win totals we have under. Miami's one of the ones we have over. Yes, it was the good start. It was what we were looking for, but it can all go away. We got 2 pretty easy games the next 2 weeks, and then it's to conference play, and then we got to start to pick it up a little bit. So we'll see. There was some promise there, so I'm not going to be totally doom and gloom, but we've got to keep that going, and then it's going to be tricky. So Cam Ward getting a lot of love there in the Heisman markets. All right, let's start getting into this week's card. We're going to start with the Canadian north of the border. We'll go to the CFL. Friday night game, it's BC at Montreal. Montreal -4, the total 50 even. Montreal 10-1 on the season. They had a bye last week, so they're coming in, I would say, freshened up, ready to go here. And BC is who they'll be hosting. BC comes in 6-6 on the season. BC has won 4 of the last 5 in this matchup. So that's interesting. They're getting 4 on the road, but Montreal has been really good here. I look for Montreal to be fresh. I look for Montreal to be very organized on defense and be ready for BC. I like this game under 50 points. That is Friday night's game. BC at Montreal under 50 in CFL action. Then we got 3 games for you on Saturday with the NFL kicking off. On Sunday, of course, they're staying away from the NFL. That's probably a good idea. All right, Toronto will invade Ottawa. Ottawa -1.5. The total 51.5. Toronto off a really bad loss last week. They come in 6-5. Ottawa 7-3-1. While I respect the Red Blacks here, I think Toronto rights the ship. I think they get the job done here, bouncing back from a situation where they did not play well. And they've done a pretty good job in those spots this year after all 5 of their losses, 4 of their losses, because we don't know what happens yet. 4 of their losses, they've come back with a victory. So we're going to go Toronto there. Basically an even game, basically a pick 'em. They're getting 1.5 right now. We'll see where that line goes, but we'll take Toronto plus the points on Saturday. Saturday, 3 o'clock, Saskatchewan, the Rough Riders invading the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Blue Bombers red hot right now. started out 2-6. They're now 6-6. They've won 4 in a row. This is a rematch of last week's game. Yes, this is weird how the CFL does this, where you're playing teams back-to-back weeks. It'll be Winnipeg -2, the total 48. I like Winnipeg. They seem to have kicked it into gear here. It got settled down on offense, and Caleres and the boys are clicking. They won the game last week, 35-33. I think at home they at least double that and win the game by 4 or 5. So we'll go with Winnipeg -2 at home against Saskatchewan. Calgary and Edmonton also played last week. It was Edmonton 35, Calgary 20. Edmonton, where is this coming from? They've won 4 games now in the last 6 weeks, so they're playing pretty well here. In the Battle of Alberta reverses course. It'll be Calgary at Edmonton this time. Edmonton -1.5. The total 51. It was a high-scoring game last week. 4 of the last 5 of these contests have been high-scoring games. We will go with this game over the 51 on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. Calgary and Edmonton over the total of 51. Rolling on here, Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99 on the Watchdog Radio Network, bringing you up to the pregame for Wheeling Park and Spring Mills, as well as Wheeling Central hosting Fort Fry tonight, and John Marshall hosting George Washington. Hear all those games right here on the Watchdog Network. Visit watchdognetwork.com. That's where you want to be for all your Watchdog high school football action here on a Football Friday. Matt here with you from the Watchdog Pine Room Studios as we get ready to take you up to the pregame at 6 o'clock, which will cover all 3 of the games on the Watchdog Network this evening. All right, AFL, we gave you a couple of them last week. The Port game over, Port Geelong over, Western Hawthorn over. By the time you're listening to this, you'll know who won those games. We'll know how the point totals turned out. So we gave you those ones last week. You can follow all of our plays at BLS_PRP on our X account, Twitter, formerly Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You can get all the plays there, and we'll also have Sam's racing plays since he was not able to join the show. We'll have those, and we post all the plays each and every week here on the BLS_PRP page. Pine Room Studios, where you can find the full version of Bettor's Last Stand. You can find it on the YouTube page or at pineroomstudios.com. Check out any of those spots or anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find the full version of our 99th program here. All right, let's get into AFL. As I said, we gave you out 2 last week. We'll see how it goes. We gave you out the futures, which were Brisbane, Geelong, and Port Adelaide. All 3 at pretty good prices, 6, 7, and 8 to 1. Thought that the winner of the Port Geelong game was a very, very good bet to have a great shot of making the grand final and probably winning it. Let's start with this week's games. It'll be Sydney hosting Greater Western Sydney. So a big battle here. This is a rivalry game. So it's in the playoffs. I find this to be very interesting. Sydney laying 8.5 in this game. The total 172.5. I'm leaning GWS here. Now I know Sydney beat them the last 3 times, beat them by 30 both times this year. But GWS I think is a little bit more experienced as far as playoff football goes, and I think they're going to have a little bit of a different game plan here. These were also games that happened earlier in the season, back in May and June, and we all know Sydney has not played very well in the recent months, meaning August and late July. So I think this is a fair number here. I'm going to go with GWS, a slight lean to them on the point spread, catching the 8.5. But my main play in this game is the over 172.5. I think Sydney's going to find GWS very tough to stop. GWS, to me, has been a team that's a pretty accurate kicking team, and I think they get on the board and score, a lot of goals here this week. I think they do a good job, and I think they make Sydney have to outscore them to be able to win this match. So I'm going to go with GWS, but the main play over the 172.5 in Sydney and GWS at a early Saturday game. So be sure and get that one in before you go to bed on Friday night. Brisbane and Carlton, the other matchup, and Brisbane, the number 5 seed in the tournament. They get a really good draw here. I said that last week. I thought it set up very good for them. They're laying 22.5 here. Total 166.5. I'm going to go under here. Carlton, a team that really struggles to score. Brisbane can kind of do either way. Brisbane will play it tight if they need to. They'll do just enough to get the job done here. Not going to recommend a play on the spread minus the 22.5, but I am going to go the under 166.5. I think Brisbane does plenty to get the job done here. Do you want to sweat out the 22.5 point cover? I don't know if I want to, because Carlton will play hard to the very end, trying to extend their season. Carlton upset the Lions all the way back in round number 1, 86-85. That was not the same Brisbane team you're playing with now. I talked about Sydney early in the year being better. Well, Brisbane was not so good. They started the year out terrible, and this was one of the games that got them off to a bad start. So I think they redeemed themselves here, and 3 out of 4 in this series have stayed under the total. So we're going under in Brisbane Carlton, and we're going over in Sydney and GWS with a slight lean to GWS there in the AFL action. Mountain East football going on this week. Not going to give you any plays on these, but I'll give you the lines. Limestone at West Liberty. Limestone minus 24.5. The total 58.5. That a Thursday game that happened last night. So you see the score in the paper this morning. It was Wheeling University minus 6.5 at Walsh. That one on Saturday evening. 56.5. The total on that one. Again, you can check out all the Mountain East action over at the Wheeling Island Hotel Casino Racetrack and Sportsbook. You can wager on the Mountain East games. You can wager on the win totals and the future outrights of the Mountain East. So lots to talk about there. There's lots to talk about tonight as we get ready to bring you high school football action here on the Watchdog in just a little bit. It'll be the pregame show for Wheeling Park, Wheeling Central, and John Marshall right here on the Watchdog Network. And before then, we're going to hit on some we're going to go to do the NFL first, since that doesn't take as long, and then we'll go through the college card coming up. We're going to start you on the NFL here, and then take a quick break, and then pick it back up here in Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99. All right, let's get into it. Baltimore, Kansas City were in action last night. So I don't have fortune teller ability, so I don't know who won that game at the time of this recording. But I expected it to probably be a pretty tight game, and probably the under was where I was leaning. Green Bay and Philadelphia and Sao Paulo on Friday night. That's tonight. So you got that one going on. You can watch that one on Peacock. Philly minus 2.5 total. 48.5. I like the under in this game. I think playing surface is always an issue when you're going to a place like this. Is not used to having football. They're not used to having 350-pound guys running on grass. It's a big difference when you have soccer players running on there who weigh 160 pounds, and they're cut. And like, not all the NFL guys are like that. They're a lot bigger. So I feel like turf is always a question when you're going to a game like this, especially if it's a natural surface, which I've been told this is. And the NFL has had some issues in the past down in Mexico and some other places with poor playing surfaces. Even in Arizona they did. So I'm curious to see how this turns out, but I like Philadelphia and Green Bay under the 48.5. I'd play that all the way down to 47 probably. But I think it's a nip and tuck type game. You got a lot of new parts on both teams. Maybe the Packer offense might be. Packers to score in their first drive might not be terrible to score points, because they'll be well-oiled machine. Scripted plays was a benefit to them, and I think they would probably have a shot at putting points on the board the first drive. Eagles, not so sure about that, but we shall see. All right, moving on. 1 o'clock kick. It's the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals -8. The total 40.5. Everybody tells me I'm insane that I think that Patriots have even a prayer in this game, but I'm actually not that insane, I don't think. I'm going to take the New England Patriots plus the 8. It's the first week of the NFL. I mean, anything can happen. We know this. Cincinnati's been a team that's been a notorious slow starter. Whether you like Joe Burrow or you don't, they may not have Jamar Chase. As of this broadcast, he's not signed yet. Well, I shouldn't say that, because they do have control of him. He's under contract, but he hasn't got what he wants yet, I guess I should say. So we're not certain if he'll be in uniform. If he's not there, that's a huge loss for them. I'm on New England here. I know they're not good. I'm not expecting them to be good, but don't be surprised if New England doesn't make this a tight game and maybe even win the game. It would not shock me. This is the NFL. Anything can happen. 8-point spreads in week 1 are just borderline ridiculous. The next game, obviously a lot of our listeners interested in this one. Pittsburgh at Atlanta. It'll be the Falcons -3, hosting the Steelers. The total 42. I think this game's probably an under. I think both offenses will struggle a little bit. Cousins coming back off of an injury. Russell Wilson settling in with a new offense. Arthur Smith against his old team. There's a lot of things here in play. I like the Steelers. I think if you get a field goal or plus 3.5, and I do not like the Steelers as a fan. I despise them. So I'm picking them here, though. I think they have a shot of winning the game. Nobody's giving them a chance. So I'm going with two teams that no one believes can win, New England and Pittsburgh. And then a third team that no one really believes that can win. I have heard a few sharper guys give me a little bit of a glimmer of hope with the Arizona Cardinals, who will be at the Buffalo Bills. Another 1 o'clock kick. It'll be the Bills minus 6.5. The total 48. Again, this is getting up near a touchdown, and you have a dynamic offense with some really good playmakers on Arizona and a Bills offense that has a lot of new parts. Now, I know the Bills are probably going to win this game. They'll probably win it by 3 or 4 points, but that's not 6 or 7. I think I don't recommend teasers very often, but a teaser leg in this situation wouldn't be terrible with Arizona. You're able to add it on. They might get around a touchdown anyway, and you can get that up to 13.5 or so. Not terrible. Maybe not the best teaser leg, but not a terrible one either if you're into that, where you're adding points on to the team or taking them away from a team giving points. Arizona would be a team worth maybe taking a peek at catching the 6.5, but I'll take them plus the near touchdown. I think there's a little bit of value on Arizona. We'll do one more game before we head to break. It's the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Houston Texans, a division battle. And these division battles, especially early in the season, these teams know each other. So they got a lot of tape. They're familiar with the personnel for the most part. Now, there's a lot of changeover, but for the most part, they're going to kind of know the main cogs on these teams. Anthony Richardson back for the Colts. Obviously, C.J. Stroud, a really good cast of characters that he has on the offense for the Texans. I like these games under. I think they make a lot of sense to play them under these division games. You're 48.5. I think this is a game that's probably somewhere around 21-17 or something along those lines, even 24-17. I think these games tend to be tighter because the teams know each other. So if you can eliminate the big play potential from it, now Richardson worries me a little bit. I'm not high on him at all. He's not a quarterback in this league. He's a bad passer. So pick sixes are in play here. Defensive scores are in play here. If you're looking for things like that, you like those kinds of things in your parlays or your same game parlays, or you just want to bet one of those straight, which I would recommend. Houston to score on defense, not a bad decision. I think it could go your way. There's a definite chance that could happen in this game. Anyway, we're going to go under Colts and Texans, under 48.5, 1 o'clock kick on Sunday. All right, we're going to take a break here on the Watchdog Network. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99, bringing you up to high school football action. Wheeling Park, Wheeling Central, and John Marshall all in action tonight on the Watchdog Network. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the rest of the NFL and college cards. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99 on the Watchdog Network. We'll be right back.
Reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activities should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. All right, men, load the cannons and hold the line. You're listening to Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in. It's Bettor's Last Stand on the Watchdog Network here on a Football Friday. Loaded action. You heard it all day long from the Bear and Bob show at 12 to 2 to our Football Friday show at Gumby's from 2 to 5. Now you got Bettor's Last Stand. Then you get the pregame for Wheeling Park, Wheeling Central, and John Marshall here on the Watchdog. And then it's high school football action. WatchdogNetwork.com is where you can find all three games. WVLY, Wheeling Park, WKKX, Wheeling Central, and WatchdogNetwork.com for the John Marshall feed. But you can hear them all on the WatchdogNetwork.com, so get used to checking that one out. Let's keep it going in the NFL as we recap. Actually, not recapping anything. We're giving you the plays that we like for week number 1, kicking off, well, tonight, last night, however you want to look at it. It's an NFL weekend. Hopefully you got your fantasy drafts and your team's looking good and nobody's hurt. Fingers crossed. All right, the Jags and the Dolphins is where we left off. It will be the Dolphins minus 3.5. The total 49 in this game. I'm going to go with Jacksonville here. I'm high on them. I think they take a big bounce back here. A little bit of uncertainty with Miami. I think they're a team that I don't dislike their personnel, at least offensively, but question marks on defense, a little bit of a question mark on the coach. So I'm going with Jacksonville here. I think they're a formidable opponent, and I'll give a small lean to the over in this game. As you heard me say about the division games, I don't like those over, especially early in the season. These ones where you got two potentially explosive type offenses, not used to seeing each other a lot, so that lends to maybe an over. Next game, Minnesota at the New York Giants. It'll be the Vikings -1.5 on the road, a total 41. It's just amazing to me that you have the Vikings favored in a game on the road with a backup quarter. Well, I don't even think he's a backup. I guess he's brought in to start Darnold. But two bad quarterbacks. What's that say about Daniel Jones? I like this game under the 41. I think this both teams struggle, and I think you can see a defensive score in this game. Both these quarterbacks look like they could turn the ball over, and they have plenty of times in their career. So we're going under with the Vikings and the Giants. Carolina at New Orleans, division game here. Then the NFC South, it'll be New Orleans -4, the total 42. I'm on Carolina here. You know, I'm high on them. I gave them out as one of my season-long bets to be over their win total, to potentially even make the playoffs or win their division, and I really think that's live. If they protect Bryce Young, I think this team can win, and I think with the new coaching staff, I think they're going to be a lot better, and I think New Orleans is not very good. So I'm going to go with Carolina plus the 4 here, and a pretty good lean to the under in this game of 42. Another one of these division games with two teams feeling their way along and not great quarterback play as of yet. Tennessee at the Chicago Bears, all the mighty Bears. Everybody has them punching a playoff ticket before they've even played a game. It's the Bears -4, the total 45.5. I just can't think that Caleb Williams is going to be just unstoppable in his first game. That's impossible to ask. Remember, if you ever want to know what it's like for a rookie quarterback to come into a situation, and I'm not saying that his situation is the same as these guys, but go back and look at Troy Aikman and Peyton Manning's first-year stats with their teams, Dallas and Indianapolis, and tell me that you think that those guys had a tough time, and they're Hall of Famers. Now, how you think Caleb Williams is going to be? This is a guy that didn't really perform all that great in big games in college, in my opinion. Had some maturity issues, so I'm not sold on this guy. I think he's going to end up being pretty good because I think he's got great physical gifts, but he's got to put it together mentally for me to believe that he's covering a 4-point spread at home from a team that's really got a lot of pressure on him against Tennessee, who has absolutely nothing to lose. Nobody expects Tennessee to be any good at all, so I'll take the 4 with Tennessee. I think they can win this game outright, so take a little sprinkle on the money line at +175. Denver at Seattle. Seattle -6, total 42. 6 is too much. Too much uncertainty with Seattle. Geno Smith, new coach. I like Seattle. Very high on them. Just don't know how they're performing the first week of the season. Denver, very down on them. Bo Nix, just not a fan. I just don't think the guy's very good. I don't think Sean Payton's very good. So we'll go under 42 in this game. I think both offenses maybe struggle in that one. Las Vegas at Los Angeles. Oh, man. Used to be the Oakland Raiders. Used to be the San Diego Chargers. Now look at us. What a mess. It'll be the Chargers -3 with Jim Harbaugh. Total 40.5 in this game. No real play here. I got to feel both these teams out. It's going to take a while, so I'm going under. I think they both take a little bit of time to get going, so I recommend an under play of 40.5 in the Raiders and Chargers. Dallas and Cleveland. Cleveland -2.5 at home, 41.5. This game you can hear right here on the Watchdog Network, so check that out on Sunday afternoon. If you're driving around, you're in the car, wherever you're at, if you're watching one game on TV, you can put our game of the Cleveland Browns on your radio dial. You don't want to miss that. It'll be the Browns again, -2.5, total 41.5. I like the under in this game too. Browns defense was exceptional at home last year, very poor on the road. Dallas, a lot of guys missed time in their training camp. Big Mike, very subpar coach. I look for Schwartz and the boys to have something ready for him. I like this low scoring, and maybe the Browns by a field goal. They might get the job done and cover here, but Deshaun Watson, X factor, never know. Washington Commanders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs -3.5, the total 43.5. Really like Washington here. Washington is a team I'm very high on. They're in a division that they probably are going to be better than the Giants already, and they'll be breathing down the Cowboys' neck before too long. Jaden Daniels, very good. They got a defensive-minded head coach, which I'm like. They have a good offensive coordinator in Kingsbury. So a lot of things to like about the Redskins. They got a really good quarterback, and I think their running game could come alive. So I'm high on the Skins. I think they can win this game outright at +160, but definitely take the 3.5. I like the Commanders, Skins, whatever you want to call them, to get the job done in Tampa. Sunday night game, the Rams and the Lions. The Matt Stafford Bowl here. Detroit -3.5, total 51. Really high on both these teams. Both of them, to me, are going to win 9 or 10 games. Both playoff teams. I like the under in this game. I think they kind of have a chess match. They played each other a little bit frequently recently. They played late last year, and now they're playing each other again. So I like this game under. I think it's a chess match. I think both teams know each other a little bit here, and both well coached. And I think it'll be tough to find points, but we're going to stick with an under. I think it's Not a low scoring game, but lower than 51. And then Monday Night Football, the 49ers and the Jets. Everybody's telling me the 49ers are a mess. The Jets are going to beat them. And I don't disagree. The 49ers have had some issues in the offseason. They just get Trent Williams inked. Ayuk late to camp. They got some guys injured. They had a poor guy get shot the other day. Fortunately, he's okay. And Ricky Pearsall. So a lot of distractions for the 49ers. But the Jets are a walking circus. It's literally like P.T. Barnum is out with the Jets. Everywhere they go, it's the Jets. They're the greatest. They're this, they're that. That's all people talk about. I think it's too much for them to handle. Now, Rodgers, big upgrade for him. No doubt about it. I'm still skeptical of their defense. Breece Hall, can he hold up? I've been saying it for like 12 years. The guy takes more carries and beatings than any running back I've ever seen. Once he hits the wall, it's going to be over. So we'll see when it is. I think San Francisco finds a way here. I think they find a way. I know that they got a lot of things to work out, but I'm leaning Frisco in the game. I don't love this play by any means, but I'm going to go with Frisco. But I'm going to go under the 44. I like that one even better. I think both of these offenses struggle a little bit in their first week of action. Aaron Rodgers, basically, first time he's played in 2 years, it seems like. So we'll see. All right, that concludes the NFL Week 1 card there. Best of luck in your fantasy football and all that good stuff. And again, a reminder, this program takes you into the pregame show for the Wheeling Park Patriots and the Spring Mills Cardinals, and also the Wheeling Central Maroon Knights will be hosting the Fort Fry Cadets. And then we have also on WatchDogNetwork.com, we have the John Marshall Monarchs hosting the George Washington, oh boy, what is their mascot? Patriots. GW Patriots, sorry. All right, so football action, high school football action coming your way here on a Football Friday presented by Gumby's and Jill's Gentlemen's Club. It's been football all day here on the network, and we're not quite done yet. It's college football time. We're in the week 2 right now. So interesting things from last week. The Penn State game was kind of what we thought, an under game. Penn State just too good for West Virginia. Offensively, Penn State looked like they've improved a little bit. We'll see if that keeps up. Mountaineers, right around where I think they're going to be. Nothing changed my opinion on them at all. Nothing changed my opinion on Penn State at all from last week. I think Penn State is an absolute lockdown playoff team. I think they're in for sure. I think you can make a case that 6 to 8 of the playoff teams you could tell are already that's going to happen. It's going to be probably Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia at the minimum out of the SEC. Then you got to throw in Texas and Oklahoma. So that could potentially be 4 or 5 teams. We'll see how it shakes out. But man, there's some. Now the SEC did not perform very well against real teams, so we got to take note of that. Big 12, I think it's a 1-bid league. I think that'll be Utah. I think that's pretty safe to say. ACC will be a 1-bid league with hopefully Miami, but we shall see what happens. Clemson was just not up to par with Georgia. They just couldn't compete, and that continues to be a common thing with Clemson football. They're just not able to compete with the big teams anymore. And then you get the Big Ten. Ohio State, they're fine. I mean, they're going to make the playoff. I mean, their plane would have to go down. Joking, obviously. Don't want that to happen. The only way they don't make it is for something catastrophic to happen. Ohio State is in. Penn State, in my opinion, is in for sure. I just don't see how they're not in. And then Notre Dame gets the job done against Texas A&M. And, boy, I wasn't impressed with either team. I thought both teams were pretty bad. We'll see what they do against other opponents. But Notre Dame's schedule is so damn easy. There's not really another game they could lose till they play USC. So I think Notre Dame's in. I think Ohio State is in for sure. I think Penn State is in for sure. I think Alabama will be in for sure. I think Georgia will be in for sure. I think Ole Miss will be in. That's already 6 teams that I named right there. You got the ACC and the Big 12. That gets you to 8. So figure it out. You got a couple of those small schools. I mean, I don't know. To me, this seems like a whole lot of wasted time. You're wasting a whole season to just play a 12-team playoff that you can already be able to name 10 to 12 of the teams right now. But, hey, we want to gamble on it. That's why it's here, and hopefully you guys enjoy it out there as we roll on here. Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99 on the Watchdog Network pregame as we get ready to take you into the pregame for the high school football action tonight in the Ohio Valley. Let's start it off. Texas at Michigan. Oh, man, here we go. Into the big house, the Longhorns go, -7.5 the total. Now, this game opened 3.5 Texas, up to 5.5, up to 7.5. Public all over Texas here. Makes me want to lean Michigan. I'm not going to recommend a play on this, but if I have to make a lean and you really want to play this game at noon on Saturday for something to do, I would take the points. But again, I might be in the minority on that. I think Michigan at home maybe makes enough plays. Maybe the crowd helps them out and they can get the job done. But it won't be easy, that's for sure. Georgia Tech and Syracuse. It'll be Georgia Tech -3. The total 61 in this game. Georgia Tech looked good in their previous games, and maybe they're a formidable team. I think they're going to be high middle of the pack in the ACC. It opened Georgia Tech -1.5. Now it's up to 3. I like the over in this game. I think some sharp money started to show in the over, and that was before I liked the over, or after I liked the over. I had liked the over already, and I saw the sharp money showing up, so I like it even more. So we'll go over the 61 in Syracuse and Georgia Tech in the Carrier Dome at noon on Saturday. K-State, Tulane. K-State -9.5. Total 49.5. Nothing on that one for me. Bowling Green at Penn State. Penn State -35. Total 49. Go under in this game. I don't think Bowling Green will score. I'd look at Bowling Green's team total, and if you can find it anything, like if you could find 7, because I bet it'll probably be 6.5. But if it's 7, I would play it. And I'm not sure Bowling Green will score more than 3 in this game if they even get that. So Bowling Green team total under in the game, Penn State and Bowling Green. Troy and Memphis. This one opened up Memphis -16.5. It went to 18, and now it's up to 18.5. The Tigers laying against the Trojans. Total 57.5. I like the over in this one. Memphis will go up and down the field. Troy looks like they're very bad on defense. Maybe they score a little bit in garbage time. We'll go over 57.5 in that one. Pitt and Cincinnati. Cincinnati -2 here at home. This one is a really good bet for Cincinnati. Cincinnati far better than Pitt. I don't even think it's even close, to be honest with you. So we're going to go with the Bearcats -2, money line, whatever you feel like doing in that game. I'd even lay an alternate spread in that one, 6.5 or so. Get yourself some plus money, and I think Cincinnati gets the job done. That's probably going to be my best bet, but check it, BLS_PRP on X for the best bet. I got to do a couple other deep dives and see if there's a few little trends that I like enough to make this my best bet. Akron at Rutgers. It'll be Rutgers -23, total 41.5. Sharp money showing up on Rutgers. I'm going to follow suit, and I'm going to play the Scarlet Knights as well. I think they're a good team, well coached, and they obviously don't care about running up the score. I think people got mad at them last week for it, so we'll see what Shiano does this week. Army at Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic -3.5, total 42.5. Some sharp money on Army here. Don't know enough about Army's team, but I do know one thing. 42.5 in an Army game, a little bit high. I think this game goes under. Army is a ball control offense. I think they run the clock as much as they possibly can. They can take those 8-minute drives, which you just absolutely love as an under player. So we'll go under 42.5 in Army and Florida Atlantic. Oklahoma State and Arkansas. The Razorbacks at the Cowboys. Pretty good matchup here. Oak State -7. The total 60. I like this game to be a track meet. I'm going to play this game over the 60 points on the total. That's Oklahoma State and Arkansas over 60. Iowa State, Iowa. Don't really have a feel in this game. Normally, logic would say under. It's Iowa -2.5. The total's just 35 points. Iowa did score 40 last week. I really don't know what to make of these two teams. Both very boring, both very bad. Iowa feels like they're a playoff team. I'm not so sure. I would lean Iowa State in this game. No recommendation on the total. It just seems like we can't keep cheating death with these unders with Iowa. Maybe they finally figure it out and they get a game into the 40s. But I'll pass on that one. It'll be the Cal Golden Bears at the Auburn Tigers. Now, this is a game I'm high on Cal. Not that they're going to be very good, but they're going to be over their win total. They can win 4 or 5 games. A lot of sharp money on Auburn here, -13.5, total 53.5. So I'm passing on this. I liked Cal in this game, but I saw a lot of sharp play on Auburn, so I'm going to sit it out. See what happens. Go on to next week. Jacksonville State at Louisville. Louisville minus 26. Now it's up to 28. So a little bit of a line move there. No play for me on that one. Temple and Navy. It'll be Temple at Navy. Navy minus 13. The total 43. Sharp action showing on Navy. I like Navy prior to that, and now I like them even more. We'll go with the midshipmen minus a 13. Hurry up and get that in before it goes up over 14. Baylor and Utah. Utah minus 14. Total 53.5. I like this game over quite a bit. Utah should do whatever they want here against Baylor. And I lean Utah, but I don't love that. 14 will be right around that number. So recommendation on Utah, but over the 53.5 is what I really like there. South Carolina, the Gamecocks at the Kentucky Wildcats. Sharp money on Kentucky here. Don't know how I feel about that yet, so I'm passing on. It's Kentucky minus 10, the total 45. So I'll sit this one out, but the Sharps are on Kentucky as of now. Northern Illinois at Notre Dame. It's open. Notre Dame minus 30. Total 45.5, but it went from 30 down to 28. Just a 2-point drop there on the point spread. Does Notre Dame seem disinterested after the big win last week? Not sure. I'd lean Northern Illinois or pass on this game. It'll be in South Bend, so the fans will be rocking, but small lean to Northern Illinois, but Notre Dame should take care of business pretty easily. Eastern Michigan at Washington. Washington getting bet heavily. 27.5-point favorite. Heavy public team here, Washington. Not sure I'm buying that, so it's Eastern Michigan or pass for me, especially if it gets up over the 28. UMass and Toledo. Toledo minus 20, the total 50.5. The public on Toledo in this game after a poor showing by UMass. I would lean towards UMass to bounce back here in this spot. Plus the 20, if I get the 21.5, I'll be even more inclined to take it. But also like the under in this game. Not one of my favorite plays, but under 50.5 I think is worth it in this game. Michigan State and Maryland. It'll be Maryland minus 8.5, total 44. Maryland performed pretty well last week. Kind of surprised me. I wasn't a big fan of theirs. This total looks a tad bit low, but I'm really not certain how Michigan State's offense will play on the road. So small lean from me to the over of 44 in that game, Michigan State and Maryland. Middle Tennessee, Ole Miss 41.5, total 64. Probably got to be Ole Miss and over here. You figure they'll do whatever they want on offense. They look to be one of the most potent offenses in the entire country. So look for Ole Miss, maybe the Ole Miss point total to go over. They could definitely score some points. So I would be looking at Ole Miss to potentially put up some hefty amount of points in that contest. Marshall against the hated Virginia Tech Hokies. Virginia Tech opened 17 up to 20 now. The total 48.5. Yeah, Marshall scares me, but Virginia Tech was terrible. This is in Inbredsburg, also known as Blacksburg. So I'm not playing this game. I'm probably staying away from Virginia Tech for a while because I just can't stomach picking them again and watching them lose. Actually, I loved watching them lose, but when it cost me money, not so much. So no play on that one down in Virginia. Let's see, South Alabama and Ohio. It was this was a line change here. So South Alabama opened as a 1-point dog. They're now nearly a 2-point favorite. Some twos popping up at various shops. So South Alabama, a little bit of money on them. So potential play on the Jags. I'm going to pass on that game. Sam Houston State, a surprise team last week. School was out on them, though. A lot of sharp money on them, just poured in, and they took care of business easily. They'll visit UCF this week. They're catching 21 on the road. Sharp guys on them again. So take the 3 touchdowns with Sam Houston maybe again here. The total 59, no play on me there. But I'll lean Sam Houston. The sharp guys say they like it. Not that they're always going to be right, but Sam Houston, a team getting a little bit of undervalued play here. South Florida, Alabama 31.5, total 64. Alabama very impressive last week. I won't play the 31.5, but I'll probably go with Bama first quarter. If you can get that under 10 points, I think it's a really good bet. You can basically, they get 10 in the quarter you're covering. Most of the time it's going to be 7.5. So go with Bama first quarter there. Missouri and Buffalo. Missouri minus 34.5. The total 51. No play there. Missouri, a team a lot of people down on, but I think they're so-so. Moving along through the card, Kansas and Illinois. This is an interesting one. Kansas minus 5.5, total 55.5. You got the public on the under, you got the sharps on the over, and you got the sharps on Illinois. So a lot to dissect in this game. Coach and Nick, I know, will be on Kansas. 5.5 on the road at Illinois. I'll tell you, I would probably lean to the over in this game if I was going to play it. That's where I'm going to go, the over. UAB in Louisiana Monroe. UAB opened minus 11-point favorite, and now they're up to 13. Do with that what you prefer. I don't really know what will happen in that game. I don't have a great feel of any kind. Kennesaw State Owls, we had them last week. They're plus 15 this week against Louisiana Lafayette. They're just a team that's going to get ignored because they're new. So don't discredit them if you're getting them. Plus a couple touchdowns here and there. Do a little bit of a dive into making sure they can compete and they have a healthy roster and so forth. But Kennesaw State will be a team that will cover a lot of spreads this year. Colorado Buffaloes in Nebraska. Talked about it earlier. Big 8 rivalry renewed. It'll be Nebraska minus 7.5 in Lincoln. Total 57.5. Open 6 up to 7.5. Public is on Colorado. Pros on Nebraska. We're going with Nebraska. I like them anyway. I was high on them. We gave their win total out. I think Nebraska rolls in this game. Tennessee at NC State. Tennessee minus 7.5. NC State is the home team here, catching 7.5 at home. Total 60.5. I'm on Tennessee Volunteers here. I think NC State stinks. I think Tennessee buries them at home. Ohio State hosting Western Michigan. Ohio State minus 38. Total 54. Sharp money on the under here. That's where I would lean if I'm going to do anything in this one. Houston at Oklahoma. Oklahoma now up to 29.5-point favorite, open 27.5. My cousin Jake will be a captain for this game, the senior tight end for the Sooners, so I wish him the very best. I think Oklahoma probably takes care of business in this game. I'm going to play them first quarter and first half once again this week. Clemson, sharp money showing on them as they host Appalachian State. They're minus 18 here. Can't get there yet for me, so it would be another pass on Clemson. A couple other line movement games. Oregon opened 18, now up to 20 against Boise. Oregon didn't play very well last week. Boise was pretty good. I think an over in that game could be a little bit of a sneaky one, as Oregon was not clicking on all cylinders. I think they get it going this week and probably light up the scoreboard. Oregon State minus 3.5 was the opener. They're up to 5.5 on the road at San Diego State. Not going to play that one. Can't play them laying points on the road. And then Arizona State hosting Mississippi State, 4.5 up to 6.5. And I would recommend a small play on Arizona State. Mississippi State's going to be a very big bottom feeder in the SEC this year. All right. That does it for the college card here on Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99. Again, if you want to listen to the full length version of Bettor's Last Stand, get on over to thepineroomstudios.com or the Pine Room Studios YouTube page or wherever you get your podcasts. Search Bettor's Last Stand and you will find show number 99. This show brought to you by the Brownie House. As always, get on over to yesbrownies.com today. Use the promo code PINEROOM for 20% off your order at checkout. Again, thanks to all of our sponsors, the wonderful sponsors that we have for our high school football games here this evening on the Watchdog. The health plan game of the week. Again, we had the health plan folks on board last week as we had Wheeling Park of Parkersburg South. Tonight, it will be Wheeling Park hosting Spring Mills in the health plan game of the week, and we'll be sending it out to the Belmont Carson Petroleum broadcast booth in just a little over an hour, or a little under an hour, I guess it'll be now, to Coach Luke and Nick on the call for that one. And then the IBEW game of the week, it'll be Central Catholic hosting Fort Fry, and we'll be sending it out to Soup and the fellas in the Flooring Center broadcast booth. So excited for these games to kick off tonight. We also got John Marshall football over on watchdognetwork.com. Again, thanks to Jill's Gentlemen's Club and Gumby's for our Football Friday sponsorships. Hope you enjoyed the day of football action. Don't go anywhere. It's the pregame for Wheeling Park, Wheeling Central, and John Marshall. Yes, that's 3 pre-games in one here on the Watchdog. We'll talk about all 3 games extensively, as well as the Duggars, saucy spreads, week 2 spreads, and some of the other interesting games up and down the river. It's the Pine Room Watchdog Football Friday extravaganza continues next with the pregame show. Don't go anywhere. This was Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99. We'll be back next week, 5 to 6, right here on the Watchdog Network or at watchdognetwork.com. Follow all the plays at BLS_PRP on X and visit thepineroomstudios.com for all of the various Pine Room programming and any shows that you may have missed this week. All right, that'll do it for us here on Bettor's Last Stand, show number 99. Again, don't go anywhere. It's Wheeling Park, Wheeling Central, and John Marshall football action coming up for you next, following the pregame show here at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, and best of luck in all your wagers. We'll see you next week on Bettor's Last Stand.